For Trump, he is looking for fair trade. Fair trade, not free trade. Fair trade, in his mind, and he said it many times, is if American market is open, then he expects other countries to open their market. China's market has to be open for American products. This is the crucial thing for him. Now, with Trump, I've been following him for a long time. It is not what he says. So when you listen to him, his announcement, look at what he does, not what he says. He's a businessman. He wants to make a deal. He wants people to come to the table to discuss. So sometimes he comes with a very tough announcement, but what he wants is the people who listen to it to come and sit at the table to negotiate. At the end of the day, he wants to negotiate a deal.
So taking America into a recession, is it worth it? And do Americans need to back that up?
The fake news, of which many of you are members, is trying to convince the public to have a recession. Let's have a recession. The United States is doing phenomenally well. But one thing I have to do is economically take on China, because China has been ripping us off for many years. President Clinton, President Bush, and President Obama and others should have done this long before me. My life would be much easier, although I enjoy doing it, but my life would be much easier if I just said, let China continue to rip off the United States, all right? It'd be much easier, but I can't do that. We are winning against China. They've lost 2.5 million jobs in a very short period of time. They want to make a deal. It's got to be a deal that's good for the United States. Where they want to make a deal, probably we will make a deal, but if I didn't do that, and I'm not doing this, somebody said it's Trump's trade war. This isn't my trade war. This is a trade war that should have taken place a long time ago by a lot of other presidents. Over the last 5 or 6 years, China's made $500 billion. 500 billion. Ripped it out of the United States.
Wow. Wait. 500 billion? That would make a dent in the deficit now, wouldn't it? If we were to get that money back, we would be on pace to at least pay off our debt. Why is this a terrible talking point? That's what the mainstream media will do to you. 500 billion. Let's get our money back.
And not only that, if you take a look, intellectual property theft, add that to it, and add a lot of other things to it. So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry, I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job, and that's what I'm doing. And nobody's done a job like I've done. Now, would China rather wait for a little more than a year and try and get sleepy Joe Biden to negotiate with instead of President Trump? Maybe, but I don't think so. You know why? They're losing too many jobs too fast. They had the worst year in 27 years, but I think it was actually 52 or 54 years. It's the worst year they've had in a half a century. And that's because of me. And I'm not proud of that, but you know what? They want to negotiate. And Sleepy Joe doesn't have a clue. Sleepy Joe said, oh, China's wonderful. Well, China is wonderful for China, but I'm wonderful for the USA.
He's absolutely right, folks. Not only is the 500 billion and the 2.5 million jobs number roughly in the ballpark, those are roughly correct numbers. It's important to understand this, the difference between a Democrat and a Republican on foreign policy. Here are the differences. Democrat will talk nice about foreign policy and then act way too tough to make up for the difference. A Republican, because George W. Bush actually did this, particularly with China, a Republican will talk tough. All right? Trump talks tough. And then they'll come to the negotiating table and get something done. That is how you negotiate properly. For some reason, the Democrats try to negotiate from a place of bad rhetoric and then try to negotiate from too much power. This effectively does not work, or at least does not work as well as the Republican strategy, which is talk a good game and then you meet in the middle so everyone benefits. It is much easier for us to work with countries like China, which we should. China is not out to get us. What China wants to do is to become the predominant power of the world because they think it's their birthright. All right? If you think manifest destiny and how America's the greatest country in the world, the Chinese all think that that's a bunch of hooey. They're the greatest things since sliced bread. And so they want to regain that. But the only way they can is if they negotiate with the United States. We need China's goods. They need American interests. They need American dollars. And so Trump caused a trade war, which did effectively nothing. It hurt the American economy, but it hurt the Chinese economy at the same time. And he was trying to get into the middle in late 2019, and then a certain unspecified virus of unknown origins showed up, and it almost ruined the trade deal. And that's why Trump didn't go after China the way he did, because he understands how to negotiate. I used to think that was going to be his biggest weakness. Turns out it is his biggest strength. And we need that negotiating power on the world stage because the world is quite literally on fire. It is an absolute mess and it keeps getting worse. Because again, Joe Biden talks a good game. Sorry, Joe Biden does not talk a good game. And then he tries to be way too tough. That does not work when it comes to negotiation. It's almost always meeting in the middle. People who haggle over prices understand this. Unfortunately, the Democrats don't. And Republicans like Donald Trump understand this principle to a T. And that's why I'm rooting for him in 2024.